The bite that changed everything. Ever wake up with a bite mark you can't explain? One that burns when you lie? Because I did. It happened after a wild concert, a blackout, and my boyfriend ghosting me before sunrise. I thought it was just another bad night, another heartbreak. But then came the cravings, the sound of heartbeats, the scent of iron, the urge to bite back. Turns out the bite came with fur, fangs, and a monthly subscription to chaos. If you think fate can't possibly be this cruel, hit subscribe, because I'm about to prove you wrong. Chapter 1. Neon Nights and Bad Decisions. My name's Nia Quinn, 26 years old, caffeine-powered, emotionally reckless, and about 2 promotions away from realizing I peaked in college. I live in a shoebox apartment with 1 window, 2 dying plants, and a downstairs neighbor who plays polka music at 3 a.m. for reasons I'm too afraid to ask. And then there's Dylan, the kind of man who makes trouble look like a love language. He's the reason I was standing under strobe lights that night, wearing heels I couldn't walk in and pretending tequila counted as dinner. It was supposed to be our night. His band, Howl Theory, had just booked their biggest gig at the Den, a dive bar masquerading as a concert venue, all cracked neon signs and sticky floors. Dylan promised it would be unforgettable. He wasn't wrong. The air smelled like sweat, whiskey, and electricity. Bodies moved in waves around me. The crowd roared as the bass hit, a pulse so deep it felt like it was syncing with my heartbeat. Dylan was up on stage, half shirtless as usual, hair dripping with sweat, eyes gleaming with that smug rock star glow that made half the room swoon. And like an idiot, I swooned too. Until I saw her. Front row, long black hair, red lipstick, the kind of confidence that made everyone else invisible. She stared at him like she already knew the taste of his mouth, and he looked right back. Something inside me twisted. Don't overthink it, Nia, I told myself. It's a concert. He's performing. You're not the jealous type, spoiler alert. I was very much the jealous type. I pushed my way closer to the stage, trying to catch his eye. But instead I caught something else. A flicker. A flash of silver eyes in the crowd. Not human. It was gone in a blink. But the air shifted, heavy, charged, alive. Then came the heat. Starting at the base of my neck, crawling under my skin like liquid fire. I grabbed the bar for balance. The bartender asked if I was okay. I said something stupid like, just need water, or a priest. The lights blurred, the music warped. Then, nothing. Just blackness. The next morning I woke up in my bed, still in last night's clothes, mascara smeared like war paint. My sheets were shredded, literally torn apart, and the air smelled metallic, like copper and smoke. My head pounded, my mouth was dry. And there, right below my collarbone, was a bite mark. Not a hickey, not a scratch, a bite. Deep, bruised, rimmed with something that looked like silver under the skin. Oh, great, I croaked. I've been mauled by a vampire with boundary issues. I stumbled into the bathroom, blinking against the harsh light. The mark glowed faintly when I leaned in closer, pulsing with my heartbeat, almost alive. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Harper. Harper, you alive? Last I saw, Dylan was dragging you backstage. Me. Define alive. Harper. Girl. He ghosted. His socials are gone. Like, gone. Me. He probably just lost his charger. Again, Harper. His apartment's empty. I froze. That wasn't possible. Dylan might have been a lot of things. Reckless, infuriating, emotionally constipated. But he wasn't the disappearing type. I ran to his place. Door unlocked, closet empty, no guitars, no photos. Even his toothbrush was gone. He'd vanished, like smoke after a fire. Back at home, I sat on the couch, staring at the glowing bite mark in the reflection of my TV screen. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since last night. I opened the fridge, leftover pasta, yogurt, a sad half of an avocado. But the second I saw the raw steak I'd meant to cook days ago, something primal in me snapped. I grabbed it, and before my brain caught up, I took a bite, cold, bloody, and delicious. Oh, fabulous, I muttered through a mouthful of shame. I'm officially feral. My phone pinged again. Harper. Nia, you okay? Me. Define okay. Pretty sure I just ate my groceries like a rabid raccoon. Harper. Should I call someone? Me. Yeah. A therapist. And maybe a vet. I laughed, but it didn't sound right. It sounded hungry. Later that night, the city outside my window felt different. Every sound sharper. Every smell louder. I could hear the neighbor's dog breathing through the wall. I could smell the rain before it fell. And deep inside my chest, something new, a pull, a direction, like a compass buried under my skin pointing me somewhere I didn't understand. So I did what any sane woman would do. I followed it. Through the streets, past the park, all the way to the industrial district on the edge of town, where the air hummed like static. Then I heard it. Music, low, rhythmic, primal. And when I pushed through the cracked warehouse door, I froze. Because there, under torchlight, was Dylan, alive, laughing, half naked and surrounded by people who looked too wild to be human. And pressed against him, marking his neck with her mouth, was the black-haired girl from the concert. My breath hitched. "So this is what you meant by needing space," I whispered. "Literal pack space." Then she turned, and my world stopped, because the mark glowing on her neck was the same as mine. That's the night everything changed. The night I learned betrayal doesn't just break hearts, it wakes monsters. Chapter 2. Raw meat and red flags. I should have turned around right then, called Harper, gone home, pretended my ex-boyfriend hadn't joined a cult of hot, half-naked, growly people. But curiosity's my worst habit. That and tequila. The warehouse was filled with flickering firelight and shadows that moved wrong. Too fluid, too fast. People whispered in low tones that didn't sound like words, more like sounds pulled from the throat, old and wild. Dylan stood at the center, his bare back gleaming with sweat and ink, and right there, glowing under his collarbone, was a mark, just like mine. Except his pulsed brighter, like a heartbeat that wasn't his. When the woman beside him tilted her head, I saw the bite on her neck. My stomach twisted. Same spot, same burn. And when she smiled, gods, she knew. She saw me. Her eyes flared silver, sharp as knives. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "I could say the same," I shot back. "But apparently there's a whole moonlit orgy I wasn't invited to." She laughed, low and dangerous, and that's when I realized her canines were too long. And Dylan, sweet, stupid Dylan, turned around. The moment our eyes met, everything in me screamed. The mark on my neck burned like it was alive. "Nia?" His voice cracked, somewhere between panic and a growl. "Wow," I said, hands on my hips. "You ghost me, delete yourself from the planet, and now you're hosting underground werewolf karaoke?" But then he moved, fast, too fast, and the crowd parted around him. The air thickened, humming with power. And I understood deep down, something wasn't human here. "You weren't supposed to come," he said, voice low. "You don't understand what that mark means." "No," I snapped, "I don't. Because normal guys don't bite their girlfriends like glow sticks and vanish." He winced, like the words hurt him physically. "You were never supposed to wake with the mark." It was a mistake. That word, mistake, hit harder than it should have. I opened my mouth to yell something smart and scathing, but then the room shifted. Bones cracked. The scent of ozone filled the air. Bodies bent and twisted, snapping into shapes that shouldn't exist. I stumbled backward, hand over my mouth as fur rippled through skin and claws tore through fingertips. A dozen pairs of eyes glowed gold in the dark, and Dylan, my Dylan, fell to his knees, chest heaving, eyes burning red. "Oh," I whispered, shaking, "this isn't a band. It's a full moon audition." Something inside me snapped awake. The same pulse that burned at the concert surged again, stronger this time, matching the rhythm of their growls. The woman, the one who'd smiled at me, started toward me, slow and deliberate. "She's carrying his mark," she said. "The bond's unsealed," Dylan growled. "Stay back." "She doesn't belong here," but she ignored him, fangs flashing. "If she's marked without the bond ceremony, she's a liability." "You know the rules, Dylan. She dies." And that's when panic shoved everything else aside. I turned to run, but a hand clamped around my wrist. Not hers, not his, someone else's. "Move if you want to live," a deep voice ordered. I spun, straight into the chest of a man I'd never seen before. Tall, built like sin and war had a baby, eyes the color of a storm about to break. He pulled me behind him like I weighed nothing. The air around him shifted, colder, sharper, dominant. "She's mine," he said, and the growl that followed made every creature in that room freeze. Even Dylan stopped mid-transformation, staring at him like he'd seen a ghost. "Knox Vale," someone whispered. "Alpha of the Eastern Pack." The man, Knox, didn't look at them, didn't look at me either. His focus was entirely on Dylan. "You marked a human?" he said. "Without the ritual? Without consent?" "It was an accident," Dylan snapped, half-shifted, voice distorted. "There are no accidents when you draw blood." The air crackled. Two predators locked in a standoff. And me? I was the idiot in the middle holding a purse and a leftover concert wristband. "Okay," I said, voice shaking. "Clearly there's some supernatural drama happening here, but maybe we could—" Knox turned, cutting me off with one sharp look. Those eyes, cold, gray, ancient, met mine. And for a second, the whole world fell away. The pulse under my skin stopped fighting and surrendered. "You don't speak," he said quietly. "Not until I get you out." "Excuse me? You reek of his bite. That makes you prey here." Before I could reply, someone lunged, a blur of claws and teeth. Knox moved faster than thought. One motion, one strike, and the attacker hit the floor unconscious. Then he turned back to me. "Let's go." "You don't even know me." "I know you're marked by an idiot who broke the code," he said, stepping closer until I could feel the heat of him. "And I know that makes you mine to protect." My heart slammed against my ribs. Protect me from what? He met my gaze, voice dropping to a low, dangerous whisper. "From the pack that wants you dead." And then, the world went white. Claws, roars, chaos. He threw his jacket over me and shoved me toward the door just as the fight erupted behind us. I don't remember much after that. Just heat, motion, and the sound of his voice cutting through it all. "Run, Nia!" Don't look back, so I didn't. And that's the last thing I remember before everything went dark again. Chapter 3. Claimed by a stranger. I woke to cedar smoke, the ache of bruises, and a heartbeat that wasn't mine thudding like a war drum on the other side of the room. Not a hospital ceiling, wooden beams. A stone fireplace throwing out low heat. A gray sweater draped over a chair like it had been abandoned mid-argument. My throat tasted like copper and bad decisions. I tried to sit up. My body filed a complaint. "Easy." The voice slid over me like a blade. I jerked toward it and almost fell out of the couch because he was there. The storm-eyed stranger from the warehouse. Taller without the chaos somehow. Broader. Built to block doors and start revolutions. Knox Vale. He crouched beside me with a glass of water. Up close, the edges of him were sharper. A thin scar at his jaw. Shadows under his eyes like he hadn't slept since the last moon. He offered the glass. I took it because my mouth felt like sandpaper, and pride is not hydrating. "Where am I?" I managed. "My cabin." His gaze flicked to my neck. "You're safe." I touched the bite, ready to flinch at fire. It didn't burn this time, just hummed, low and unnerving, like a phone on silent buzzing against my skin. "What happened?" I asked. "And if you say nothing, I will bite you." One corner of his mouth ticked. "I'd advise against that. Try me." He straightened, still infuriatingly calm. "You walked into a den during a pre-moon trial. Your ex marked you without consent. That's a breach of treaty. They would have killed you to erase the evidence. I intervened. Intervened as in I claimed temporary protection under my authority. He paused. And then I bit you. I choked on a cough that was mostly outrage. You bit me too? Override, he said, like he was explaining how to reset a modem. A higher-ranked bite can suppress a rogue claim. It stops the burn from killing you. So I'm a walking custody battle. His eyes found mine. Storm gray, zero apology. You're alive. Because you marked me like a lost package. You're not a package, he said, voice low. You're an Omega in transition with a corrupted mark and a death sentence hanging over you unless someone stronger takes responsibility. A breath. That someone is me. Omega. The word slotted into my chest, like a key I didn't ask for. I swung my legs off the couch and instantly regretted it. Every muscle protested and something deep in my bones ached like I'd been run over by a myth. You won't like this part, he said. Oh, good, because the rest was delightful. The bite you woke with isn't random. He leaned his hip against the table, arms folded. Dylan thought you were human. He was wrong. You're latent born. Your sense been suppressed. By lifestyle, maybe genetics. But the first catalyst woke it. The concert, the crowd, the moon's pull. He felt it. He took advantage. So this is all because my boyfriend has the self-control of a toddler? Because he's a coward who wanted power without consequence. I stared into the fire until the logs blurred. And the other woman? The one glued to his mouth? His fated mate, Knox said, not flinching. He marked you anyway. A laugh scraped out of me, brittle and ugly. Of course. He cheated on me with his destiny. He used you to trigger a bond he couldn't control, Knox corrected, and in doing so he broke a law that keeps our world from swallowing yours whole. I pressed my fingers to my pulse, trying to slow the gallop. So what? Now you're stuck babysitting me? Protecting you, he said, until the override settles and we can unbind you safely from his stain. Unbind? My voice went thin. You can remove this? Maybe. His gaze flicked again to my neck. If we're careful. You keep saying we. He didn't smile. Because your heart is syncopating with mine. I froze. The drumbeat I'd blamed on the room. The fire. No, it was him. On the other side of the cabin, and somehow in me too. When he shifted his weight, my pulse stumbled to match. When he breathed in, my chest followed like an echo. I hated it. I needed it. Both truths sat in me and hissed at each other. That doesn't mean anything, I said too fast. It means the override is holding. And if it stops holding, then your body tries to reconcile two claims. He met my eyes. It tears itself apart. Silence fell, heavy as wet wool. The fire popped. Somewhere outside, a bird made a question mark out of a chirp. I swallowed. So, what's the plan, oh captain, my captain? You rest. He nodded toward a tray I hadn't noticed. Meat, seared barely, and a bowl of broth that smelled like comfort. You eat. My nose did that humiliating thing where it decided before my brain. Hunger came at me like a wave. Is this cow? Elk. Right. Fancy forest cow. I reached for the fork, then stopped. Wait. This isn't some creepy mating ritual, right? If you eat the elk, you owe me your soul? You owe me nothing, he said, and something in the way he said nothing made my skin tingle. I took responsibility. That's on me. I speared a piece and tried not to moan when it hit my tongue. Okay, Vale. Point for you. He watched me eat like it mattered whether I did. It was unnerving. I covered it with sarcasm, my favorite blanket. So what do alphas do for fun when they're not crashing illegal shifter parties and biting strangers? Manage borders. Keep rogues from taking heads. Negotiate with councils that think tradition is a weapon. Sexy. He ignored that. You'll stay here until the council convenes. Council? Like a wolf, Choe? He gave me a look that said, "You're impossible, and stop making me want to laugh at the same time. Like the people who can grant dispensation to undo a bite without killing the bitten." Right, I chewed. Small thing. If the council hates broken rules so much, won't they, try to finish what Dylan started? His voice cooled. Yes, great. I love a committee with murder power. He pushed off the table. You'll be safe with me. Big promise from a man who just admitted his control is slipping, I shot back, because I remembered the way the room had gone silent when he spoke, and the way everyone had still looked at him like he was made of loaded guns. He stilled. A muscle in his jaw ticked. When he answered, it was careful, honest. The moon's close. The edges fray, he said. That's not your problem to solve. Is this where you brood heroically and tell me to stay in the cottage, little lamb? Nia. My name in his mouth wasn't soft. It was a warning wrapped in concern. You joke when you're afraid. I get that. But you need to hear me. There is nothing I want from you that you don't choose. Heat crawled up my neck that had nothing to do with the fire. You sure about that? Because my pulse is currently doing whatever your pulse tells it. That's the override. He looked away first, and somehow that made me feel stronger. It will fade. A lie? A hope? I couldn't tell. The bond thrummed, steady now like a ceiling fan you stop noticing until it stops. I set the fork down. What did you risk back there? I asked quietly. When you said I was yours. He didn't answer immediately. He moved to the mantel, pulled something down, and handed it to me. A square of thick paper, edges singed, streaked with drying silver. Words in a language that looked like claw marks more than letters. At the bottom, a smear that, when it caught the light, flashed metallic. Blood. His. What is this? Writ of protection, he said. Old magic. It binds the claim to the alpha who speaks it and signs it in blood. You did this in the middle of a brawl? Yes. And if the council doesn't like it? They take it out on me. Because you broke their chain of command? Because I made a choice they don't control. His mouth went wry. They hate that. I stared at the document until the marks swam. An artifact. A promise. A trap for him. And a lifeline for me. My chest did an inconvenient thing where it softened. Why? I asked, voice smaller than I meant. You don't even know me. His gaze was steady. I know a woman who walked into a den alone to demand answers she deserved. I know a scent that shouldn't exist but does. I know the difference between a victim and someone who survives anyway. A pause. And I know the moment I saw your mark, I couldn't let them touch you. My sarcasm fled. The room pressed close. Okay, I said, because anything else would have been too much. Temporary truce. I won't bite you unless you deserve it. You'd lose. Try me. His phone buzzed on the table. He didn't check it. If you're steady, I'll show you the perimeter. You need to know where not to cross. What happens if I cross it? Wards will rake you raw, the kind that strip a scent down to bones, cheery. We made it 3 steps before the world tilted. Heat slammed into me from the inside, sudden, brutal. My knees went watery. Knox was there before I knew I was falling, hands like iron around my elbows. Easy. I gritted my teeth as the mark under my skin burned hot, then hotter. It's doing that thing again. He swore under his breath, the kind of curse that sounded older than English. The override's slipping, Moon's pulling harder. I thought you said it would hold. It will if we anchor it. Anchor? My laugh was breathless. Do I need a boat? His pupils widened, swallowing gray. He was close enough that the scent of him, cedar, rain, something wild, knocked at my control. Look at me. I am, I snapped, because looking away would have been safer, and I couldn't. Match me, he said, voice dropping to that register that cracked me open. Breath for breath. Heart for heart. That's stupid. Do it anyway. He took a slow inhale. I tried to follow. Exhale again. After 3, the burn eased from wildfire to controlled flame. Better, I muttered, dizzy with relief. If you tell me this is some wolf yoga, I'm leaving. It's resonance, he said. Temporary, but it buys time. For what? For you to decide what you want. I stared at the floor because his face was too much. What if what I want is for none of this to be real? Then I keep you hidden until the moon passes and the council signs the release. A beat. And if they don't, you said they would. I said I'd make them. I looked up. You can do that? I've done worse. Something in me liked the sound of that more than it should have. We were both very still, a breath's distance apart. The air tasted like electricity before a storm. If I reached up, my hand would fit perfectly against the place his pulse beat in his throat. If he leaned in, the last of my resistance would sigh and climb into his palm. I stepped back first, because I am sometimes wise. He cleared his throat and let go of me, like he'd only just remembered he was holding on. Guest room is down the hall. Door hinges stick. Lift as you pull. There's a lock if it makes you feel safer. Does it lock you out? No. Not very comforting, Vale. I'm not your danger. You keep saying that, I said, heading for the hall with legs that pretended they weren't shaking. Try proving it. Halfway to the door, his voice followed, quieter. Don't open any windows. The wards are keyed to my scent. If you let the night in, it'll know you're here. What will? He didn't answer. I found the room. Small, clean, a window that looked like a promise I didn't trust. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass anyway and listened. Forest, wind. Somewhere distant, a river gossiped to stones. Beneath all of it, like a drum under a song, his heartbeat, steady and infuriating and safe. I should have slept. Instead, I thought about Dylan's eyes glowing red and the woman at his side with the bite that matched mine. I thought about the writ with Knox's blood on it. I thought about the way my body had obeyed when he said breathe. And then the night answered my thoughts with a sound that raised every hair on my arms. A long, low howl, followed by another, closer. The window pane shivered. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A blocked number. I almost ignored it, then swiped. Static cracked. Then Dylan's voice, ruined and furious, crawled through the line. Nia, he rasped, you don't know what he is. You don't know what he wants. He'll use you to break me. Bold of you to assume I need help breaking you, I said, pulse spiking. You're not safe with him. And I was safe with you? I laughed, sharp. Tell your mate I said thanks for the bite-shaped trauma. A hissed breath. She wants you dead. Get in line. Listen to me. His voice dropped, and for once it sounded like truth. The council won't free you. Not from an override mark that strong. They'll bind you to him to keep the packs from war. Ice slid down my spine. You're lying. Ask him. Dylan's voice shook. Ask Knox Vale what happened to the last Omega he claimed. The call cut. The room went too quiet. I stared at the phone until my reflection blurred. From the hall, floorboards creaked. Not Knox's heavy tread. Lighter, deliberate. My hand closed around the bedside lamp. Knox? I called. Silence. Then a whisper at the crack beneath the door. Breath scented with mint and metal. Little Omega, a woman purred. Not the one from the den, someone colder. Older. Open up. I brought you a gift. The handle twitched. The words on the frame sizzled and popped like someone had licked a socket. I didn't open the door. I did the smartest thing I'd done all day. I screamed Knox's name. The wards roared. The hallway exploded with a sound like thunder, followed by a snarl that wasn't human and wasn't trying to be. The handle stilled. And on the other side of the door, in a voice that curled under my skin and promised consequences, Knox said, "Step away from my claim." The intruder laughed once, soft and mean. Careful, Vale. Your control is showing. Footsteps retreated. The house exhaled. I stood there shaking, lamp in a death grip, the mark on my neck thrumming like it had its own thoughts. Knox didn't open the door. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just spoke through the wood, steady as bedrock. "Get some sleep, Nia." A beat. "We have a council to defy in the morning." Chapter 4. The Moon's Deal. Morning came too early and too bright. I'd dreamed in flashes, silver light, claws, laughter that turned to screams. When I opened my eyes, the lamp I'd weaponized was still on the floor. Knox had left a mug of coffee on the nightstand. Steam curled up like he'd timed it perfectly. He hadn't knocked. He never knocked. Control freaks rarely do. I stepped into the kitchen. He was there, of course. Fresh shirt, sleeves rolled, expression carved out of caution. There was a bandage wrapping his left hand. I tried not to stare at the blood that had seeped through. Failed. "What happened to your hand?" I asked. Wards pushed back harder than expected. "So that intruder wasn't a hallucination." He glanced up. "You heard her." "She said she had a gift." I assume it wasn't cookies. Knox poured coffee for himself, movements precise. "The Western envoy. They want to test boundaries before the council meets. They sent a scout. Right. I pulled out a chair, sat. "We call that breaking and entering where I'm from." He almost smiled, and it made the morning a little too warm. "Wolves don't wait for invitations," he said. "Great motto for a dating profile." I sipped my coffee and immediately coughed. "What is this?" "Strength. It tastes like tree bark and regret." He took his seat across from me, gaze steady. "We need to talk about the council." And Dylan, I stiffened. "Let me guess. He's writing apology songs? His pack will claim the mark on you is still binding. They'll argue you were complicit. If they convince the council, you'll be forced back into his custody." "His what?" I nearly spat coffee across the table. "I'm not a lost library book he can check out again." Knox leaned forward, elbows on the table. "That's why I invoked the override. But it also means I have to stand with you before the council as your witness and protector." "And if you don't?" "They'll execute you for contamination." I blinked. And here I was worried about parking tickets. He didn't flinch. "They see humans as fragile, omegas as property." "You're both." The words landed like a slap. I set my cup down before my hands could shake it over. "You talk about them like you're not one of them." "I lead, not follow." "Does the council know that?" "They think they do." His voice cooled. "They've been trying to control me for years." "The override mark on you gave them leverage." I stared at him. "So rescuing me was right," he said quickly, "and dangerous. They'll say I acted without sanction, which means they'll come after both of us." The room fell quiet except for the tick of cooling coffee cups. He looked tired for the first time, like the weight of keeping me alive was starting to press through the armor. I exhaled slowly. "Okay, so what's the plan? We march in, flash the bite mark, and hope they believe your heroic intentions?" "No," he said. "We give them something bigger to fear." Later that day, the forest opened to a clearing carved in stone and sunlight. The ruins of an old temple stood ahead, half-eaten by ivy and time. Knox walked beside me, radiating the calm of a man planning arson. "Is this where the council meets?" I asked. "No. This is where we gather power before we face them." "Sounds culty." "It's ancestral magic." "And it needs both of us," I folded my arms. "You keep saying both like we're a team." "You do realize I'm just a marketing intern, right? My most dangerous weapon is sarcasm. That's more useful than you think." He stepped onto the stone platform, motioning for me to join him. The air thickened, humming. The mark on my neck burned faintly, echoing the rhythm of his heartbeat again. "Breathe," he said. "I'm getting real tired of that command. It keeps you alive." Light flared beneath our feet, silver threads forming patterns that looked like constellations trapped in stone. The hum rose until I could feel it behind my eyes. What's happening? The bond is sinking. We need to seal it properly before the council senses weakness. Seal it? How exactly? He met my gaze. You have to accept the protection willingly. Speak it. My mouth went dry. Speak what? Say that you acknowledge the bond. That's it? He hesitated. And you use my name. I looked up at him, the man who'd thrown himself into chaos for me, whose world I didn't understand but was now trapped in anyway. Fine, I said, because defiance was my love language. I acknowledge the bond, Knox Vale. The ground answered. Silver light shot upward, wrapping around us like ribbons. The mark on my neck pulsed once, twice, then settled into a dull thrum. The warmth was sharp and wrong and right all at once. Knox flinched like he'd been struck. That's unexpected. What is? The bond recognized you as equal, meaning you're not just protected. You're linked, I blinked. Linked as in Wi-Fi or as in soul prison? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. That evening, we returned to the cabin as the sky bruised purple. My head felt full of static. The mark burned, softer now, like it had learned my heartbeat and was content to hum along. Knox paced near the window. The council sent a summons. We go tomorrow, and if I say no, they send hunters. Wow, you guys really skipped right over the HR department. He stopped pacing. I can get you out of the territory before moonrise. And what happens to you if I run? I don't matter. That's a terrible lie. He didn't deny it, just looked away. The bond tugged between us, an invisible thread pulling taut. My heartbeat tripped into his rhythm again. I hated it. How easy it was to find safety in his steadiness, how dangerous it felt to want it. You saved me, I said quietly, but you also marked me. That's 2 crimes by my count. Then I'll answer for both, he said. Just stay alive. You keep giving orders. And you keep disobeying them. The tension crackled like static. If he moved one step closer, I wasn't sure if I'd punch him or kiss him, or both. Before I could decide, the phone on the counter buzzed. Knox frowned, grabbed it, scanned the screen, and swore. What? I asked. He tossed the phone down. Dylan petitioned for immediate judgment. He's demanding the council execute the override. Execute as in remove it? As in kill the connection. You. My stomach dropped. So, tomorrow's meeting isn't about freedom. It's about which alpha gets to bury me. He didn't argue. For the first time since this began, I saw it, the smallest crack in his composure. A man built on iron, suddenly realizing the cage he'd built might close on someone else. That night, I didn't sleep. The moon crawled higher, silver bleeding through the trees. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. I sat by the window, tracing the faint glow of the mark. It pulsed like it was listening, like it knew what was coming. Knox's voice came from the doorway. You should rest. I can't. He leaned against the frame, half in shadow. Neither can I. We looked at each other, silence stretching, threaded with everything we hadn't said. Finally, I whispered, If they try to kill me, they won't. If they try, I said again, don't die for me. He crossed the room in 2 strides. Too late. Before I could answer, he pressed his forehead to mine. Barely there, breath mingling. Not a kiss. A vow. Tomorrow, he said, voice low, rough, trembling at the edges, we make them remember why they fear the veil line. And just like that, the bond flared between us, silver and wild, like it understood defiance better than destiny. Chapter 5. The Council of Teeth. The wind clawed at us all the way up the ridge. Clouds strangled the moonlight. Below, a valley full of wolves pretended to be a city that had never existed. The council met in a hall carved into the mountain. Stone pillars, fire pits, enough ancient posturing to make a history major cry. Knox walked beside me, coat collar turned up, expression unreadable. Every step echoed with unspoken risk. The mark on my neck pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Every time I thought about that fact, I wanted to hit something, preferably fate. 2 guards opened the doors. Inside, 12 alphas sat in a half circle, each in black or gray, their eyes glowing faintly under the torchlight. And at the center, smug, alive, and breathtakingly undeserving of oxygen, stood Dylan. I almost laughed. Of course, he'd show up with perfect hair and a smirk like betrayal was an accessory. Knox's hand brushed my back. Not possessive, protective. The gesture lasted a second, but said everything. I straightened. My voice might shake, but I would not. Alpha Knox Vale, one of the council elders intoned. You stand accused of violating the blood accords. You claimed a marked human without sanction. Speak. Knox's voice filled the room, deep and certain. I acted under law, Section 12 of the Bloodline Treaty. I invoked protection of the innocent. The elder's eyes flicked to me. And you, human? What do you claim? Mostly trauma and an unpaid rent, I said before I could stop myself. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. Dylan's mouth curved. Knox's lips twitched. Just once. She means she claims protection under my mark. Protection? Dylan barked out a laugh. You mean ownership? I turned toward him. Oh, right, you'd know all about that. He ignored me, addressing the council. She consented to my mark. That word, consented, hit me like a slap. My nails bit into my palms. You drugged me, you coward. His smile didn't falter. She was willing. Willing, I hissed. I woke up bleeding. A female counselor leaned forward, eyes sharp as glass. Alpha Vale, confirm. Did you override another Alpha's mark? Yes. Without permission? Yes. Do you deny your intent was to expand territory and weaken the Western Pack? Knox met her gaze. I deny nothing except the lie that she was ever his to claim. Gasps rippled through the hall. The elder slammed a hand on the table. Enough! I could feel the power in the air shifting, building. Each council member radiated authority like static before lightning. The mark on my skin pulsed hotter. Dylan stepped forward, trying for righteous fury. He bound her to himself. You can see the connection. That bond is unnatural. It must be severed. My heart skipped, and Knox's did too. The echo between us vibrated through the floor. The elder raised his hand. Then we shall test it. The test. The guards dragged forward a brazier filled with burning silver. The smell made me dizzy. Step forward, human, the elder said. Knox moved instantly. No. Step forward. He looked at me, jaw tight. Don't move, his eyes said. But Dylan's smirk widened, so I stepped forward. Because I've never been good at doing what men tell me. The silver flared brighter. The air turned electric. Place your hand in the fire, the elder commanded. What? If the bond is natural, it will not burn you. Define natural, I muttered, but no one laughed this time. Knox took a step closer. Don't! I met his eyes. If I don't, they'll kill us both. His jaw clenched. The muscles in his throat worked as he ground out a word I'd never heard him use before. Please. That broke something in me. I took a breath and shoved my hand into the flames. Pain hit first, then something else. The fire hissed, the mark blazed, and the world bent sideways. Silver light exploded from my skin, running up my arm, through my veins, connecting to the pulse inside Knox's chest. The flames turned from silver to white, then blue. The brazier cracked, the floor shook. Every council member recoiled. Knox's voice thundered behind me. Enough! He reached through the fire, grabbed my wrist, and yanked me free. The burns healed instantly where his fingers touched. The elder's eyes went wide. Impossible. Knox turned to them, still holding my hand. Her bloodline answers to no pack. She's Omega-born. The last of the crescent line gasps echoed like thunder. Dylan's face drained of color. Liar, he spat. That bloodline's extinct. Knox's gaze cut him down. Extinct? Or hidden among humans to escape your kind's greed? Every eye swung toward me. I didn't feel powerful. I felt like a glitch in the universe. But something deep inside, something ancient, rose to meet their stares. You all talk about claiming and controlling, I said. But you forget one thing. Blood remembers. And mine just woke up. Light spilled from my skin again. Softer this time, spreading across the chamber like dawn. Every wolf bowed their head before they even realized they were doing it. Except Dylan. He lunged. Knox moved faster. In a blur, his hand caught Dylan's throat, pinning him against the wall. The elder shouted, "Vale, enough! Violence in council is—" But Knox didn't look away from Dylan. She was never yours. You marked her like property and lied to cover your cowardice. You want justice? He dropped Dylan to the floor. You'll get it. Dylan scrambled up, half-shifted, eyes glowing red. She'll never be yours either. Maybe not, Knox said quietly. But she's free. And then Dylan lunged again. The fight. Everything turned feral in seconds. Claws, growls, chaos. Knox met him midair, catching him by the jaw, forcing him down. The marble cracked beneath them. I didn't think, I moved. The mark burned, urging me forward. My own voice rose, part human, part something else. Enough! The sound wasn't mine. It was the moon's. It was the blood of every Omega that had ever lived. Power surged through the room. Dylan froze mid-lunge, body locked. The council's fire pits roared higher, silver and bright. The elder whispered, "Goddess, protect us." I stepped toward Dylan. "You wanted to own me," I said, my voice calm now. "You made me this instead." When my hand touched his chest, the mark he'd given me flared and disappeared. Just like that, his hold on me was gone. He collapsed, panting, human again. I turned to Knox. "It's done." He stared at me like he was seeing a myth step out of a bedtime story. "You broke the bond yourself. Guess I'm not the fragile human everyone thought." He huffed a laugh that sounded a lot like pride and a little like disbelief. The verdict. The elder rose, voice shaking. "This council decrees the human, no, the Omega, is absolved of all charges. Her lineage is protected under Vale's watch until further decision translation. I was now officially Knox's problem." As the hall emptied, Dylan was dragged away. He didn't look back. Knox turned to me. "You did what even I couldn't." "Don't look so surprised," I said. "I warned you I was stubborn." He smiled, a real one this time. "You terrify them." "Good." I flexed my newly healed hand. "Maybe next time they'll ask nicely before setting something on fire." Outside, the hall night wrapped around us like velvet. The air smelled of pine and lightning. Knox stood beside me at the cliff's edge. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so." Though I might have set feminism back a few centuries by literally glowing for justice. He chuckled low. "You broke their laws. Their expectations. Maybe their world, yours too?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Mine especially." Silence stretched between us. For once, it wasn't uncomfortable. Finally, I whispered, "So what now?" "Now," he said, "we keep you hidden until the next moon. The packs will want answers. They'll hunt for the source of your bloodline. Meaning me. Meaning us." The bond pulsed again, steady, sure. I should have hated it. Instead, it felt like gravity. "Great," I said. "Another month of you bossing me around. Someone has to make sure you stop running toward danger." "Then you're definitely underqualified." He smiled faintly. "Come on, Omega. Let's go home." And as we started down the mountain, the mark on my neck shimmered silver under the fading moon, no longer a brand but a choice. Chapter 6. The Moon's Promise. The forest greeted us with silence. Not peaceful silence, watching silence, the kind that holds its breath because it knows something has changed. We crossed the valley before dawn, the path slick with mist. Every few minutes, Knox would glance over his shoulder as if expecting claws to rise out of the fog. "Do they always stare like that after someone blows up their political drama?" I asked. He didn't answer. The corner of his mouth twitched, though, his version of laughing. When we reached the cabin, I stopped. The door was still scorched where the intruder had tried to force it open. The smell of cedar and ash drifted through the air. It felt smaller now, like the forest had shrunk around it to keep us inside. Knox pushed the door open, motioned me in first. "You should rest." I walked past him, too wired to sit. I just humiliated a room full of wolves, discovered my ancestry comes with pyrotechnics, and nearly died. Again. Rest isn't really on the table. He closed the door, leaned against it, watching me. "Then eat." "You and food," I said, half laughing. "Is that your solution to everything?" "It works," he replied simply, pulling bread and fruit from a basket I didn't remember being there. "Keeps the instincts steady." "Instincts," I repeated, pretending not to notice the faint growl under the word. He poured water into a mug and set it in front of me. "You'll start feeling the moon more sharply now that your bloodline's awake. It heightens everything. Senses, emotion, hunger." "Hunger?" I asked, suspicious. His eyes flicked to my throat before he caught himself. "For food," he said. "Mostly." "Mostly?" I teased. "Don't push your luck, Quinn." I smirked, but the humor didn't hold. "What happens when the next moon comes?" He hesitated. "You'll have to choose." "Choose what?" "If you stay human, the power will fade and the packs will leave you alone. If you accept what you are, you'll never pass for human again." "So either lose everything or start over as a magical anomaly." "Sounds fun," his gaze softened. "You'd survive either way." "Would you?" He looked away, jaw tight. "The council won't forgive me. They'll wait until you decide, then strike again." "Then we run." He shook his head. "You can't outrun the moon." I hated that he was right. That night. The moon rose early, full and heavy, its light bleeding through the trees like silver fire. I couldn't sleep. My skin buzzed, my pulse too fast. Knox was outside, pacing the perimeter. I could feel him in the back of my mind now, the echo of his steps syncing with my heartbeat. I stepped onto the porch. "You're going to wear a trench in the ground." He stopped. The moonlight made his eyes pale steel. "You should be inside." "I can't," he exhaled. "It's starting then." "What is?" "Your first full moon after awakening." He rubbed his temple like the words themselves hurt. "It's when the bond—" "I don't care about the bond," I interrupted. "I care about whether I'm going to spontaneously sprout fur." His laugh was rough, startled out of him. "Not tonight." "You're still between forms. But you'll feel the pull. Define pull." "Like gravity," he said quietly. "Like the world wants you closer." The mark on my neck throbbed, heat spreading down my spine. I shivered. "Tell me to go inside," I whispered. "I can't." He took a slow step toward me. The space between us filled with moonlight and breath and too many things unsaid. "This isn't fair," I said. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." The bond pulsed once, deep and sure. His control slipped. I felt it like static in the air. He reached out, stopped short of touching my face. "You should hate me for marking you," he murmured. I did. "And now?" "I don't know." He swallowed hard, the muscle in his jaw working. "If I cross this line, I don't stop." "Maybe I don't want you to." His breath caught, and then the world tilted. The moon hit its zenith. Every sound sharpened. The river, the leaves, the quick double beat of our hearts. My body moved before thought could catch it. I stepped into him. His hands came up, one on my waist, one at the back of my neck where the mark glowed between his fingers. When he spoke again, his voice was a vow against my skin. "You're not mine." "You never were." "But this." His thumb brushed the mark. "This will always remember me." I closed my eyes. "Then make it remember something worth keeping." The kiss was slow and inevitable, like gravity finding its center. It wasn't gentle, but it wasn't war either. It was recognition, completion. When he finally pulled back, his control was frayed, his eyes half wild. "You shouldn't have done that," he said, voice hoarse. "Why? Because you're dangerous? Because now they'll smell it," he said. "The bond. They'll know, let them," I whispered. "They already fear me." He laughed softly, the sound breaking like light through storm clouds. "Goddess help them, they should." The aftermath, later, we sat by the fire, both pretending to ignore the way the air still hummed between us. "What happens now?" I asked. "The council will call another meeting," he said. "They'll want to name a guardian for you." "Someone to control me. To protect," he corrected. "But yes, and you? I'll challenge it." "Of course you will," I muttered. "You never do anything the easy way." He looked at me for a long time. "You make easy impossible." The bond thrummed once more, softer now, like it was settling into place. I stared into the flames. "When I met you, I thought you were the villain." He smiled faintly. "You still might be right." "But if you are," I said, "you're my kind of villain." The morning after. The world smelled new. Rain had passed in the night, leaving the forest slick and alive. I woke to find Knox already up, sharpening a blade by the window. "Sleep?" he asked. "Define sleep." "Close your eyes, lose a few hours, wake up angry." "Then yes." He set the blade aside. "There's movement near the border." "Dylan's pack." "They're not done." I sighed. "Of course they're not." "Men like that never quit until someone buries them." His mouth curved. "Planning to volunteer?" "Maybe." He stepped closer, voice low. "You don't have to fight this time." "I do," I said. "It's my story now." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Then I'll fight beside you." I smiled, small and real. "You always do." The moon's promise. That night, under the fading moon, we stood at the cliff's edge again. The world below gleamed silver and alive. Knox's hand found mine, rough and sure. "Whatever happens next," he said, "remember, your blood chose you." "Not them, and you?" I asked. "My choice was made the night I saw your mark burn in the dark." I squeezed his hand. "Then I guess we're both cursed." "Or blessed," he said softly. The wind rose, the moon dipped, and for the first time the bond between us didn't feel like a chain. It felt like a door opening. "If you've ever been bitten by fate itself," I whispered to the listener, voice trembling between laughter and truth, "don't run. Sometimes the curse is the beginning. If you'd take the bite anyway, subscribe. Because this isn't the end of our story, it's just the first howl before the dawn." Epilogue, the scar and the dawn. They say moonlight never really leaves you. It just hides under the skin, waiting for the next time you need to remember what you survived. For weeks after the council, that was my truth. The nightmares faded, but the pull never did. Every full moon, the scar on my neck would glow faintly, like it was breathing, like it was whispering that my story wasn't finished. The cabin had changed too. Knox rebuilt the wards, stronger this time, less like barriers and more like promises. He claimed it was for protection, but I think he just wanted an excuse to stay close. We'd fallen into something resembling a rhythm. He trained at dawn, silent and focused. I sat by the window sketching. Don't ask why. It's something my hands started doing when words weren't enough. Sometimes we'd talk, sometimes we wouldn't. But the silence between us had stopped being sharp. It was comfortable. One morning I caught him watching me, sunlight cutting across his face. "What?" I asked, pretending not to blush. He shrugged, a rare softness in his voice. "You look at home." I wanted to say I was, but that felt too easy for a life like ours. Instead, I said, "I'm still not cooking the elk." That earned me a full smile. Progress. A month later. The moon hung low again, silver and slow. The world outside pulsed with the hum of things unseen. I stood at the cliff's edge, hair whipping around my face, breathing in the clean scent of pine and power. This time, I didn't feel afraid. I felt awake. Knox joined me, the quiet weight of him both grounding and electric. "You could still walk away," he said. "Forget all of this. Start over somewhere human." I looked at him, the man who'd bitten fate itself to save me. "And leave the only person who actually sees me?" His throat worked, and for a second, the untouchable alpha looked lost. "You deserve peace, Nia." "Maybe this is peace," I said. "Not running. Not hiding. Just knowing." The mark warmed between us, faint and steady. A bond, not a shackle. He stepped closer, eyes silver under the moon. "Then say it." I met his gaze. "I'm done being afraid." "Of them?" "Of what I am." Wind howled through the trees. The forest answered, alive and listening. And in that moment I felt it. The strength humming beneath my skin, the echo of the goddess who'd once hidden our kind among humans. I smiled. "Guess the world will have to get used to me." Knox's lips curved. "It won't have a choice." We stood there until dawn, the first gold light chasing the silver away. For the first time, the bite didn't ache. It glowed softly, peacefully, a reminder of everything I'd lost, and everything I'd found. Home. Power. A man who didn't cage me, but dared the world to try. As the sun crept higher, I leaned into him. "Think they'll ever stop hunting us?" I asked. "Doubt it," he said. "But that's fine." "Why?" He smiled, faint and dangerous. "Because they'll never catch us." Sometimes betrayal isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's the beginning of who you were meant to be. I lost my world to a bite and found another inside it, wilder, sharper, and more honest than the one I left behind. And if fate ever sinks its teeth into you, don't flinch. Bite back. If you'd rise from your scars instead of hiding them, share this with your pack. Because this was only the first chapter of the chaos to come.